Hi, this is Michael Wan's op-ed. I'm Michael Wan with Ben Park. Ben is best known to serve as a deputy to California Senate President Pro Tem Kevin DeLeon. Today, Ben works as an auditor for a local small business, and most importantly, running for the California Board of Equalization board member seat. Thanks for watching us tonight. So let's begin. President Trump says he'll propose a path to citizenship for Dreamers, but there's a caveat. He wants immigration limits with that big, beautiful border wall, as he says. So this is what LA Times reported. President Trump said for the first time that he will call for a path to citizenship for so-called Dreamers, many of whom now face deportation as a consequence of his past action. The change would be part of a package that includes funding for his proposed southern border wall. Trump told reporters that he wanted a law that would give the mostly young immigrants legal status and ultimately a way to achieve full citizenship in 10 to 12 years. The change will be part of a package, however, including new limits on legal immigration and money for his proposed southern border wall. White House officials said they would send the proposal to Congress on Monday. While the president went further than before in expressing support for addressing the plight of the young immigrants, agreement with Congress and between the political parties is hardly assured given the intensity of feelings on the broader immigration issues. But his backing is essential for any legalization proposal to pass in the House. Now, before we dive into this, I want to introduce our viewers to Ben Park, who is running for the California Board of Equalization. Tell us about yourself, Ben.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm running for border equalization, but prior to that, actually, I was the field deputy for Senate Pro Tem Kevin DeLeon, as well as the Affordable Housing Commissioner for the city of LA. Prior to that, I was in the assisted living industry, and I owned few businesses prior to that. But my interest is in politics, and thus I'm running for the border equalization currently.
Okay, so you're an outsider, right? Not an insider.
I consider myself somebody who cares about the community, and I'm not a career politician. So you could say that I am an outsider.
Okay, that's going to be raised up for our third topic,
Sure.
the position that you're running for. But first, let's talk about immigration. LA Times reported that 1.8 million, Trump is trying to legalize 1.8 million, not just legalize it and not just visa, but pathway to citizenship. 10 to 12 years, he said. And what do you think about that?
Absolutely crucial. I think some put an estimate to even at 3 million. Depending on what report,
yeah,
correct. And therefore, people who lived here most of their lives, which probably don't even know their own country, or they don't even speak the language, I think it's crucial and essential for them to be here. Most, as far as I know, they're very productive members of society of the United States. So path to citizenship is something that should be done. And I am very happy to know that there's negotiations going on to actually make that happen.
But what I don't understand is on those DACA kids, I mean, some of them are already adults now, almost 40, I heard. Do they all need to have like a clean record, like no criminal record, or for them to be legalized, or do they check those? I mean, some people have been wondering, whether there's those kind of checking process, or whether you can, whether there's even pathway for people who have records to, make themselves legalized.
That has not, I don't know if it's been delineated. At the same time, for you to become a U.S. citizen, you do have to go through the same steps. So the first step is to become a green card holder. And then there are some things that if you do have a criminal record, you cannot even get a green card. I don't think that should change in any way. And I don't think special exceptions should be given just because they're DACA, I think.
And President Trump did mention a caveat. He wants that big wall on the southern border. He was asking Congress for $25 billion, I believe. What do you think about that?
Well, I have never been a fan of the wall.
I know that.
Because we have a wall doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stop the influx of people who are going to be crossing the border. if that's the case, then there should be a wall on the on the northern side.
There even some people say they want that.
And they might as well put a border on the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean as well. I don't think it's going to stop anything. I think a wall in the sense of putting a wall in terms of a virtual wall, where you kind of create a better opportunity on the southern side, and then negotiate with Mexico and our neighbors to be able to better the lives of people over there, in order for them to wanting to stay there rather than to cross.
You think it's a stupid idea, the wall?
But
President Trump has been saying, there has not just illegal immigrants, but they are climbing over. I saw some videos, footage of that from Mexico, and you have people from Guatemala, Central America pouring over here. And not just that, even the drug cartel, they go, underground, and people are worried about that. That's why I think, the proponents are saying that's why we need a wall.
I just don't agree, because even if the wall is
you're saying the border patrols are enough, right?
I mean, we have such an extensive wall in terms of mileage. I don't know exactly how many miles it is, but in order you cannot have a border patrol on every 200, 300 feet. So
that's why
it's still going to happen. I think it's something that he needs or he wants, because he feels it's one of the last things that he can actually deliver from his presidential campaign. I just don't think is feasible, is even cost efficient, or it's not even going to stop it.
Okay.
I think it has something to do with his ego.
Okay, so that was one of his campaign promises, to build up a wall, right?
Correct.
So even though if it is a stupid idea, if that's what he wants to offer for legalizing DACA kids, 1.8 million. It's the DACA kids is 800,000, I believe, and he wants to put more in. Some people are saying 1.8 and 3 million has been come up. So if he wants that as a conditional clause for this bill to pass through, do you think the Democrats should take it, or you think it's either DACA or no?
I think politics has a lot to do with negotiating and compromising. Although I personally don't think the wall is something that's needed, if they can come to an agreement in order to give citizenship to DACA, I would think they should be open to the idea as well, because there is a wall. What he wants to do now, he wants to make it higher and then fortify it, but there's still a border to be protected. If that's going to be the cost of legalizing not only DACA, but future citizenship to other people, because we're talking in the United States, there's currently about 30 to some estimates, even I think 25 to 30 million people.
We're talking about illegal immigrants, right?
Yes,
Some people are saying from between 12 to 36 million.
Right.
We don't know which number is
So
correct.
this could be the path to legalizing immigration for those people who are here. So I think they should be open to the idea. It's no different than, politics, sometimes I see it as a family, within your family, you're married. You don't just tell your wife everything. You have to compromise to have a happy family.
50-50,
So in order to govern the country as well, you need to have negotiation and also to be able to compromise.
But it seems like some Democrats are already against it, not just because Trump put that caveat of border wall, but he also mentioned about ending chain migration and also ending the lottery system for a green card. What do you think about that? He wants all these now stopped immediately, the chain migration and the lottery system plus the wall. Do you think that's too much for Democrats to take? Is it we can't accept chain migration and lottery system? What do you think? What's your take?
In terms of the chain migration, I don't think it's the right thing, because that's dividing families. He's saying we will grant legal status to immediate families, spouses and kids. But, I have brothers, I have sisters, I have cousins that are very close to me. And then if I am having a good life and I am being a productive U.S. citizen or a green card holder, I would want to have my family here with me to share that lifestyle. So in order to stopping that, I don't think it's the right thing to do.
I think this whole immigration debate, probably, Donald Trump came out with it back in 2015 when he announced his, candidacy for president. But I think Donald Trump kind of resonated among people who felt that the illegal immigrants are taking, Americans' jobs here. Now, not just that, there have been a lot of illegal immigrants who has, committed murder and even like what Trump said, rape. I mean, it's not like it doesn't exist. There are those, I mean, there are illegal immigrants who try to abide by the law after they come in, but there are some illegal immigrants who don't, and they just, terrorize people. And there was another illegal immigrant a couple weeks ago. I think he killed some county sheriffs, 2 county sheriffs. You heard about that news, right? And there was another one in Los Angeles. I think there was a 68-year-old lady last year. She got raped by an illegal immigrant and then killed. So we have these, there are bad apples everywhere, but they say illegal immigrants, there seems to be a lot more.
I don't agree with that, but as if they do commit a crime, they do have to pay, and they should be
get deported. You think?
I think they should be incarcerated, and they should be served their sentence
in the States,
yes,
not deported.
Yes,
Okay.
Because you get deported, then what if they don't serve their sentence in their country?
So in my opinion, I think Trump, when he said, we want the border wall, because there have been a lot of cases when they deported. The Kate Steinle case in San Francisco. There was the 32-year-old lady who got killed in front of her dad because she got she got killed by a guy who was deported 5 times. He came back the 6th time, and he killed her. And he went through the border. It's not like he went here by plane or anything. So that's why I think Trump, when Trump said, let's build up a wall, I think it resonates to a lot of people.
Okay. I mean, you said that this person went through the
That's
checkpoint.
what they said,
The checkpoint.
I mean, somehow he went. He came right back in.
Then
five
there's
times.
there's a failure on the checkpoint,
the
and that
border.
has nothing to do
Okay.
with the wall. So maybe the system is broken to the point that you have to kind of look as to how this can happen when it's an undocumented person and is going through the border checkpoint.
Okay.
And whether you have, even if you have the wall, if that system is not looked into or reviewed, then that same person is going to come back.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in my case, I'm kind of for the wall. I'll be honest with you, and I am for DACA kids to be legalized. I like that 1.8 million or 3.6 to legalize pathway to citizenship, 10 to 12 years. I'm for that. I am against the lottery system, but I am for the chain migration. That's my line. And if you have to pick pros and cons, what would you choose?
If you force me
Yeah.
to pick in between,
You're
I'll
against
say
the wall. I definitely know that. Yeah.
I between the lottery system or the chain immigration, I'll go for the chain immigration.
yeah.
The lottery system, I think, is not based on merit but luck. So I think there is a better way of using the allotted immigration slots to give to people who either have certain skills that is well needed within our country, or family members, or in that sense, rather than by chance, by luck.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about what's on Fox News since we've checked out LA Times. Let's go to the conservative side. New texts show fix was in for Clinton email probe. Newly revealed texts between Trump-bashing FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page shows a fix was in during Hillary Clinton's email probe in 2016. Now, Republican lawmakers say the latest batch of text messages between Strzok and Page, who were involved romantically, revealed their private conversations regarding Clinton and their concern about being too tough on her during the investigation into her private email system use. The text messages indicate they were wary of a backlash from Clinton if she were to win the presidential election. It doesn't appear anyone wanted her charged, House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy said on Fox News, Tucker Carlson tonight. What's your take on this, Ben? It's a huge issue right now in Washington, D.C. What is your take on this?
Depending on the point of view,
Yeah.
I think this is very party-lined. I
Okay.
personally feel that text messages between two individuals.
Yeah. FBI investigator and a FBI lawyer.
But you can either take
You're
it
saying
that
it's
way,
private.
or you can take it as once we clock out, then we are
Okay.
private individuals, and then you can text.
understand.
So
They exchange 68 texts per day. That's what I heard. 50,000.
I think sometimes I exchange more texts with my wife than 68 times.
All right.
So the fact that they're actually counting how many and all that, it tells me it's a desperate move.
I understand.
Uh-huh.
So you're saying this
Yeah.
is a political ploy by the Republicans, right?
Well, it's a political ploy no matter which way you see it, from one side or the other.
okay.
When they made this public, one side is all saying there is a conspiracy theory, and the other side is saying that what's the big deal?
Okay.
So it all depends who you ask. Me personally, I kind of, I should take a side or the other, but I see it as it's a private.
Okay. It's just private
yeah.
text messages between two, so we can't. It's not reliable. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and then I think there is this thing about the secret society that they talk about.
Secret society. Yeah, that's also
And,
kind of becoming very controversial.
When I read about these articles, and then I read, in order for me to get a good view, I actually went to Fox. I also
you did?
went to
Okay.
CNN.
I know that you usually don't like to go there, but yeah.
and MSNBC and other outlets, just to make sure that I had both sides of the stories.
sure.
Yeah, but it seems like that it was sent in a context of sort of like, we're going to create a secret society. So I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, or at least on this particular one.
I think in my case, to be honest with you, I think this is one of the biggest scandal ever in Washington, D.C. I mean, that's my point of view. I go to watch Fox News and CNN and MSNBC, and to me personally, I think CNN has completely lost its credibility. That's my take. I think CNN just completely lost it, ever since Trump became president. They have this Trump derangement syndrome. I think they're completely to the left now. They used to be neutral, and it was MSNBC and Fox News playing, MSNBC for the progressive and Fox News for the conservatives, but I think now a lot of independent, they do watch Fox News too, And I think because this whole Russia scandal came about right after, it kind of came out after Trump won, right, in a way. I mean, it was kind of boiling there like in June of 2015. So they were talking about this Russia thing, but now it really took off because Obama announced that there's going to be an investigation about this Russia scandal. But between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, what I don't like about Peter Strzok is he was a lead investigator for
Correct.
the Hillary Clinton email scandal.
Correct.
Email scandal, and he was also the lead investigator for Trump camp Russia, collusion.
Correct.
And also, not just that, he was also the lead investigator for the special counsel. So the three most important, issues that America is facing right now, he was the lead investigator on that. For him to text between, his lover. I mean, he was having an affair with this FBI lawyer, Lisa Page, and for him to, exchange texts like that, oh, what if Hillary becomes president? It means that he's kind of scared, what if, we go against it, then there's going to be some kind of repercussions, So he was fearful of that. And also for that person to take control of the Russia-Trump campaign collusion, obviously he didn't want Trump. He was saying F Trump, we need an insurance policy just in case he becomes president. To me, that's kind of unacceptable. I think there could be a lot of corruption here, and I think there is the House committee, the House Intelligence Committee, and I think the Senate, the Senate Judiciary Committee. They're over this. They're on this right now, and I think there should be a special counsel appointed to this separate to the Robert Mueller case. I mean, that's how I see it. So,
obviously there is a failure of overseeing this from a top level.
Yeah.
And I see your point, because one individual having investigated those three very important issues seems to be sort of, but I'm pretty sure there's got to be checks and balances.
Okay.
And the investigation is still ongoing,
Yeah.
and they're looking
It
into
is,
it. I think we have to wait a little bit more to pass judgment as to what exactly happened. I know that some of the texts had disappeared,
Yeah, 5,000 of them disappeared, but I think they were blaming Samsung for that. Samsung, SG, they couldn't recover it. But now I heard that they did recover 5,000.
Miraculously kind of appear. So, once again, I'm not a believer of a conspiracy theory on this one, but you do kind of have to raise an eyebrow and kind of say, wait a minute, what's going on here? So in that sense, I think you have to allow the investigation to go a little bit further, because we can sit here and then make a lot of assumptions. But I think we need to be cautious in that sense, because when we are in front of a camera and then we do say something, then the viewers have a tendency of siding with one side or the other. So you mentioned CNN, you mentioned Fox, and you mentioned MSNBC, because I do want to maintain myself informed. Whenever I go and look at both outlets, I find it to be, you blame one to be not credible because it's one side, and the other one to be credible because you see a certain way. But I think both of them kind of are at fault, because one is very conservative and the other one it may not be. So on this particular one, I think needs to be investigated, like you say. But I reserve my judgment until I know a little bit more, because they really haven't disclosed much.
You're right.
Yes.
And I would like to note that Robert Mueller, special counsel Robert Mueller, after he found out these kind of anti-Trump text messages, he did relieve him. He did let go of him. He fired him, and then Peter Strzok was reappointed to HR department. So I would like to note that. So Robert Mueller did fire him, and we're going to see from here on out what's going to happen. And this Russia scandal, I mean, there was another news that was broke by New York Times yesterday that he wants to question President Trump directly. 3 weeks from now, I heard. I mean, it could be written statement. What do you think about that?
I think they're negotiating in terms of the date and then what kind of questioning or what the agenda is going to be. President Trump actually did make a statement that he's looking forward to.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure exactly how to take that, but the fact that he is willing to meet and then talk about it, that's, I think, is going to be good on both sides, whether it's Republican or Democrats, because once and for all, the person who they're trying to get to or investigate is going to actually be able to tell his side of the story.
You're right.
Yes.
But I heard that some of the lawyers are against it. Once you get it to, once you're on oath, because he was saying he's willing to do that, but once you're under oath, it's all recorded, right? And there's a lot of cases where people kind of kind of mistakenly, they couldn't remember something correctly, and they would kind of make mistakes when they're, during the deposition, and they get caught this, obstruction of justice thing. Now I heard that the special counsel is moving from Trump camp, Russia scandal, collusion scandal, to moving to obstruction of justice. So his lawyers are worried that he might, fall into their trap. So what do you think about that?
Well, he's the president of the United States. He can pretty much dictate, and they're his attorney. If at the end of the day he still wants to do it, then his attorneys have no choice. And he seems like he committed to this, and for him not to kind of go through it, then you would not look good on him.
You know what I think? But he did say during the interview, he said that I'll do it under the advice of his lawyers. In the end, he kind of added that sentence. So I think he wants to, he's a TV guy, right? He used to be a reality show and all, star and all that. I think he wants to show people that he's willing to do it, but under the advice of his lawyers that he can't. So I think he's kind of playing this chess game. So that's my take, because I think he's a strategic, and sometimes I think he manipulates the media. I mean, that's my take. Yeah.
That's possible, but I found it to be refreshing that he's actually willing to tell his side of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I disagree with a lot of the things he does.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
But at the same time, if he says he's going to do something, I hope he carries it through. You may be absolutely correct that he's going to say, "Oh, my attorneys did not allow me to do it," but he says he'll do it. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next subject. We just passed the 1-year anniversary for Donald Trump's presidency. It was unlike any presidency, to say the least. Some give him great reviews, while others don't. I want to hear your take on this.
He overpromise and underdeliver, in my opinion. And he did pass some call
Tax
it
bill.
the tax bill, and then the Trump healthcare. But the next time the legislature or Congress becomes Democrat, then they can reverse all that.
Course, yeah.
Once again, the tax plan is something that corporations very, very much like, and individuals, depending on which state you live in, may like it, and some don't. Me personally, I think it was a ploy to give more to the rich, and then we were given some tax breaks, but it's only supposed to last 8 years. But the tax breaks given to the corporation is, it goes on with no time limit.
Okay, let's go bit by bit since you're on tax reform.
Yeah.
So he put the corporate tax 35%. It's highest among all industrialized countries in the world. So he cut from 35 to 21, right? Because you have these companies like Apple parking their money in Ireland, where they only charge like 12%, and they're even thinking about lowering that to 8% this year. So I thought that was a good thing. And many people say it's just for the rich, right? I know Democrats' talking point, mainly that's what it is. But I think, personally, I think my paycheck is going to go up a little bit, so I like it. And I don't understand why people are saying this is, and Nancy Pelosi said, we're just getting crumbs, right? We're just getting crumbs. Probably it might look crumbs to her, because I know that she's a super rich person. But, for us, in the middle class, it helps, And I don't see the downside of it. And you see all these companies like Apple, Walmart, and all these companies that are giving bonuses to their employees. And I think it wouldn't have happened if the tax reform bill didn't go through.
Oh, first of all, I don't agree with the crumbs either. $1,000 is a lot of money, and maybe she, could have chosen a different word for it. So $1,000 is important to anybody, whether you're rich or poor. In terms of, let's face it, United States is the richest country in the world. And that being so, I think the ones who do have to pay more in order to maintain the form of government that we have. Once again, it could have been compromised, but on this particular issue, I think too much was given to one side without really thinking things through in the long term. Because one of the things that I heard is that as long as we have a 0.08 or 0.08 growth on our national economy, we'll be able to make up the money that we're not going to get from corporate taxes. But there is no guarantee that's going to happen. So if there is no growth in economy in the years to come, then we're going to see the repercussion of what's going to happen. And then $1,000 may be given right now, but in the years to come, a lot more can be lost due to the tax plan that was passed on this particular year or last year. So, once again, time will tell who is in the right side. At least my personal analysis is that too much was given to one side, and then the other side was given sort of some breaks, but in the long run, it's not going to equate to a better paycheck for us in the long run.
So you were against it?
Oh, I think it could have been done better.
Okay.
Yes.
I think in my case, the tax bill, I see it more on the corporate side of things. I thought that it prevents layoffs, because you have that 25% cushion. It used to be 35, and if you lower to 21, you have that much space money to spend. So I thought it would prevent layoffs. That's what worries people the most when the economy goes bad. So, and I thought lowering from 35 to 21 was a good thing, and tax reform, I was for it. So, and I think my paycheck went up slightly higher. So of course, I couldn't go against it. So I think, I was for it, but I see, we got to probably see more of the long-term effect on it.
On plain view, I say I don't think it was a good idea, but something that is interesting is that I've spoken to CPA attorneys, tax attorneys, when this thing was being discussed, and even the so-called experts did not really have a solid answer. So that's why I'm saying few years is going to tell, but from what I see is it was just too one-sided, and then just don't. If you ask me point blank, for it or against it, I'll probably have to say I'm against it.
Okay, so the tax bill thing, you were not that hot about it. So how about his other stuff for the past 1 year? I mean, what do you think about him always taking on the media? It's been I have never seen a presidency like this. Of course, I would think you too. We never seen president fighting against the media on a daily basis, and his coverage. There was a study on the major networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. It was like 95% negative about Trump. What do you think about that? And do you think it's more Trump's fault, or do you think it's more media's fault?
I think he's a very egocentric individual. The fact that the president of the United States, the leader of the world, is on Twitter as much as he is, it scares me because I think he should be concentrating on greater issues and policies and dealing with world leaders. And then he is tweeting at 2 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what. He responds to a Hollywood movie star or somebody who may say something negative or something positive. So, he is probably the most unique president that we have ever in the history of the United States, and probably will have in the next few decades,
I would say so.
unless he's setting up a precedence as to this is how the presidents in the future have to be, where they have to be engaged in social media. So, one thing before he got elected, I said, this guy speaks the truth. But at the same time, if you kind of look back, he says things without thinking. Because when the government was shut down a few days, they found some an interview he had done where he says, when the government shuts down, it's the president's fault, no one else's.
Oh, you're back in the day, right?
Yeah,
Not now, right?
Yeah.
When he wasn't the president.
Right, So they find a lot of those things. So I think
You're saying he's playing politics, right?
I think he fires from the hip, meaning he'll just say and then he can retract himself. Any other person with all the misconduct with women, politicians would have been not only made to resign, and they would have been probably brought into the media. But seems like nothing sticks with President Trump.
I would say that if he wasn't Donald Trump, he would have been already resigned. He wouldn't even have made it to the presidency. I would say that. But he's a one of a kind. We agree on that one.
Time's
he's
over.
One of a kind. And, to me, I like his Twitter because it's transparent. It's entertaining. We as a news person, we like something that's that sparks the news. But I think it's kind of, other presidents, previous presidents like Obama and George W. Bush, they were very guided. It seems like they were in this box, and they were, especially Obama. He always he was very careful about what he said, and it was hard to know what he really thinks. You know what I'm saying, right? But with Trump, you see what you get. It's like
I think we see
he's upfront about it, and I kind of think it's transparent. It's a little bit too much too, but I think he's one of the most transparent president. I would say, he's just honest. And, even though controversial, he just says it. I tend to like that, and so the Twitter. For me, I always did feel, even though I was a huge supporter of Barack Obama, I always did feel the mainstream media, tilted to the left. I think you kind of agree on that. It's really on the left, and probably on TV channels, other than Fox News, it's all left, I would say. And the papers, it's pretty much all left, I would say, other than probably Washington Times, which is very obscure compared to like other mainstream media. So I think I was always kind of disappointed when Republicans wouldn't fight back and fold easily. But I thought Trump was probably the first time who fights back this hard. So I think this was meant to be. I saw it coming when he became president. I knew that this battle against the media would continue on, and I think the media is losing. That's my opinion. I think the media is kind of many people term it fake news now. And I think the media is not winning against Trump. That's what I think. I think Trump has more to gain, because hitting back the media people kind of. I think there are a portion of people who likes that kind of stuff. But what do you think about it?
Well, you kind of said something that is entertaining, right?
Yeah.
But governing
course,
the
yeah, I do
United
know
States
that, yeah.
is
It's
not,
not about
entertainment.
of course, yeah.
And you just mentioned he's winning the battle with the media.
That's what I think. Yeah.
But once again, governing the country is not a war with the media
of course.
or a
Of course.
popular debate. He needs to be concentrating on things that is important. I think he sways depending on what's going to be popular. Okay, and he's not thinking of the politicians. He's thinking what his tweets are going to be popular.
That's what you think, right?
Yeah, both of us are Korean Americans. I was really disappointed how he handled the whole interaction with North Korea.
Okay.
And that whole
You think
thing.
he's too tough on them?
It's not tough. It's almost comical as to
I have the nuclear button. I have a
bigger
bigger
button. And I really was laughing when I saw the press secretary come out and say, yes, he does have a bigger button. And it's like,
You mean Sarah Huckabee
yes,
Sanders, right?
It's not something that the press secretary should be even addressing. And therefore, you have two, at least in my opinion, very unstable individuals actually fighting it and then deciding the fate of. Yeah, so
I got your point.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people like him because he says things that many people would like to say, and you cannot say it in public, but he actually says it. Is that presidential? In my opinion, no.
Okay.
And then I think creates. There are things that he says that will have repercussions in the other side of the world, and then people can get hurt, or policies are going to change based on what he says. And whether he does it knowingly or unknowingly, I think it's dangerous.
Okay. I think you have a valid point, but I have a different take on it. I think it's working.
That's why you invited me, right?
Yeah, that's why we like our viewers to have a lot of different ideas because it didn't work. The previous administrations. I'm talking about Obama, George W. Bush, and also all the way back up to Bill Clinton. They had their positions against North Korea. They had this appeasement. They just kicked the can down the road. And we believed that they would not make nuclear weapons. I never believed that they wouldn't. They would. But American government obviously believed that North Korea would follow through with their promises, but they didn't. So I think it left Trump to no choice, but to be strong. And I think those rhetoric, because if you play this diplomatic game with them, they take advantage of you. North Korea has always been that way. So I think Trump was saying, hey, if you want to be like a kid, I'm going to go that road, and I'm going to hit you like that. And it seems like it's working because North Korea, government, they have not picked up their phone to talk with the South Korean government for 2 years, but they did last couple weeks ago, right?
Correct.
While the Olympic is going to be held next month, Pyeongchang, and they wanted to talk about Pyeongchang Olympics and stuff. And even Korean President Moon Jae-in said he thanks President Trump for pressuring, North Korea. That's why it opened up, their talks. So I think it's being effective. I have a different take. So, but you have your opinions and I have mine. So
if the end result is that, then it's positive that the conversation did happen. I think other things happened that enabled this end result with North Korea and South Korea participating in the Olympics together and such. But once again, if the rhetoric would have continued the way it did, I think a bad outcome would have happened. And I think even the military people agrees that it was going to be at a stalemate.
Yeah,
and then
right.
one of the two would have had to done something. I think other things happened and there were other players into this whole conflict, whether it was China or whether it is Russia or South Korea or members of all these nations I just mentioned had something to do with it, and North Korea. You just said it. They don't back down, and they so. Just because of the rhetoric that it was given by the United States, I don't think it was just alone that made them come to the table.
Okay, let's go back to domestic. The Dow Jones went up to 26,000 last year. During his first year, 5,000 points up. It's never happened in any presidency. So it's Trump's first year. Some people give credit to Trump, but there are some who give credit to Obama. Who do you give credit to?
I hate to be a cop-out, but I think It's both.
Okay.
And I'll give credit because he does appease or appeal to the people in business, and I think it's both. You have to have a groundwork for it to be able to build upon it. So I do say Obama did have sort of the groundwork, and then President Trump came, and then everybody enjoys the economic growth, and then that's why it's growing. So not only the United States, but I think worldwide, there is an upsurge on economic growth, and then people feel good about what's going on overall.
Okay, my take, I give almost 100% credit to Trump. I'll be honest with you. I think because the deregulation, every one new regulation, he killed off 22. I think that really helped. I know some business people here, in downtown LA, and they really appreciate that deregulation. It helps out their business, and I think that really became the engine. Pulling out of the Paris Accord, I think it was a good thing. I know that most people don't like it because I think America had to keep a certain standard while their rivals like China and India didn't have to abide by it until like 2028 or something like that. So I thought it was very unfair for America. I'm all for clean environment and all that, but I think not to the expense of losing jobs. So I was for him pulling out of there. I thought pulling out of TPP was a good thing too. And I give him very high grades for the economy because it hit 3% last year, right? During Obama's 8-year presidency, he has never hit 3%, and that he was the only president who didn't hit 3%, and I was a supporter of him. So I thought his economic plans didn't work well, in my opinion. I don't think he had a vision. I think Trump did. I think Trump obviously had a vision. He talked about corporate tax when nobody even talked about it. He was talking about lowering it to 15%, and I thought this guy had a vision. That's why I thought, I told you back in 2010 he had a chance to become president when everybody laughed off at him. I remember you told me that he would never become president, right? But I gave him a chance because of that economic message, and you have a lot of manufacturers coming back to the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. So I think he's secretly winning over while the media is focusing on the Russia scandal. That's my take on it. But we have different views. You give credit to Obama. I almost give him not that much credit, to be honest.
I give credit to the people of this country. Yeah. I think we live in a country where all of us can express our opinion, and then we're heard, and then because we say the wrong thing, we're not put in jail and all that. Right. Therefore, I think Americans very resilient, and then whether we disagree on a lot of the issues, we still work together. Yeah. We still, it's comical that in Asian parliament, they take their shoes off and then they start hitting each other over their head. You don't crazy. See that. Right. At least
it's more
it's civilized.
Diplomatic.
Yes.
Civilized, right.
And in our government system, I could say I totally disagree with you, and you're gonna say I respect you, but I don't feel the same way. Yeah. So, but I think that it's that resiliency, that willingness to kind of work together. So even the economy, whether you're Republican or Democrat, everybody's when they're working together, we see the progress and we see the end result of it. And I do feel that if things were not set up, for this upsurge to happen, you would have not been able to happen. Yeah. So let's say if President Trump came in right after the whole debacle of the subprime mortgage.
Obama did take on that.
Yeah. Yep. Then how do you?
I give Obama credit for that one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Timing, has something to do with it, and then the groundworks or what happened before is going to make this thing go up or go down. So I do give him credit, and because I do have a lot of people in the financial world that feel exactly like you, and we have these conversations, and you cannot dismiss it. You cannot just say, oh, no, it was all Obama, it was all Trump. Yeah. I think you do have to acknowledge that both have some, relevance to it. So.
And I know that Ben believed that because he told me privately that he really believed that Obama really helped the economy. But we have our differences, but okay. And finally for today, let's talk about your race, sir. A Board of Equalization California Board of Equalization. It's a very different system here in California. We only, among the 50 states, only California has it, right? Board
Correct.
of Equalization. So I think our viewers, they don't know that well about it. It's a little bit obscure, among the elections. Can you tell our viewers why it's such an important position and why they should vote for you?
Sure. To begin with, it's called the Board of Equalization because it equalizes the taxes. Back in the 1850s, when the state of California became a state, counties were paying different rates when it comes to property taxes. So in order to equalize that equally, that's why it's called the Board of Equalization. Why it's important? Board of Equalization is the agency that collects the taxes for the state of California, especially
sales
for
tax, right?
Correct. And is one of those agencies that people don't pay attention unless you're dealing with it. But as you know, most of the businesses that are in California are small businesses that are owned by individuals. And many times when they're dealing with Board of Equalization, because of the lack of language or lack of accessibility or even the knowledge of it, many times they get, have a negative outcome because these auditors that come out on behalf of Board of Equalization, our system of criminal system is you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But I feel that whether it's the IRS or any type of audit, is you're guilty until you prove yourself
that's
innocent.
what I heard,
Yeah, and I think that's a very bad way of approaching. When you're a government employee dealing with constituents that you're serving. So I want to represent and I want to go in there and represent our community properly because Board of Equalization, most of the time these members come in there after they serve for a long time in the legislature and they're kind of coming in there to park themselves so they could have a good retirement, or they use this to catapult themselves into the next sort of position that they want to go. In my case, I was in business for a long time. I actually had dealings with the Board of Equalization as well.
Therefore, as a small business owner.
Right, correct. Therefore, and my own mechanic, he closed his business in December because he went through the Board of Equalization, and by the time he had told me, it was too late for me to even look into it to try to help him out to navigate through the system. And one of the challenges that he faced is that the investigator that came out or the auditor that came out did not speak Spanish, and my mechanic, although he speaks English, he does not understand the intricacies of some of the languages that deals with the finances. So I think it's very important to have somebody like me who, as you know, I lived in South America, so I can speak fluent Spanish and Korean. So
English.
Somebody who is multicultural, because California, we're extremely multicultural, and somebody who was in business, I think would do a much better job than somebody who is there just because they want to go to the next office or they just want to sit there and then retire from it.
And if you win, how many people are you representing in that district?
So the Board of Equalization is divided into four districts. So it represents roughly 10 million constituents.
So you'll be probably representing 10 million once you get into office.
Correct.
That's pretty important.
Yes, very important. But even on the ballot is right after the statewide elections, and is something that a lot of people don't realize how important it is and how much it affects them on a daily life.
And some people have been saying that Board of Equalization, there has been some corruption going on there recently. Can you mention those and how you would fix those?
Well, one of the things is misuse of funds.
Okay. After they collected the sales tax, right?
Well, every agency is given a budget, misusing the money that is given on your department. I think that's the wrong thing to do. There's been some instances where there are state employees, but they've been used to help on campaigns or personal use, and I don't think that's acceptable to do, as well as nepotism. So they found that in the Board of Equalization, there is a much, much higher than usual of people who are related or people who
work there. You're talking about
correct.
Right? Not just all 4 districts are like that, or just
I think there are some instances, and that is what I want to fix, and that's something that shouldn't be happening. I do understand that, sometimes you may have cousins and things like that because they happen to be. But when you have, let's say, the son of the biggest donor, working directly under you or something like that should not be happening. Yeah.
When is the election happening, and how can people vote for you? Can you explain to our viewers?
The 3rd district is actually for most of LA County and Ventura County, and the election is June 5th for the primary.
For the primary.
And then there's going to be a runoff in November.
But people need to register to vote, right?
Of course.
And which areas are included in District 3? Can you tell our viewers?
Well, it's all of Ventura County from Oxnard to the border of LA County, and then Sylmar and below.
Okay.
To the border of Orange County.
So you said you might probably need 500,000 votes, did you say, to make it to the runoff?
Historically speaking, when I look at the voter equalization, it's anywhere from 800,000 to 1.2 million votes that is cast through for the whole seat. So, I think with 500,000 votes, I'll be guaranteed to make the runoff.
Okay. And if people want to donate their money to you, which website do they have to go to?
My website is www.benpac2018.com.
Okay. And there's also a lot of other interesting races with, your election. There's a governor's race and Senate race and all that. And you're paying attention to those races too, right?
Absolutely.
Right? How do you like the governor race going on? I mean, what is your opinion on that?
I think it's the members who are running for
California governor.
Yeah, California governor. The people who are running for it, it's a good representation of who lives in California. We have Latino, we have an Asian, we have Anglo, and I believe that I've attended a few of the debates. Some of the issues, yes, some of the issues that they bring up are extremely valid, very important to our state, and I think we should have a governor who actually understands. California is not divided between Northern and Southern California, and
Many
I think
people do believe that. Right?
and a lot of people I think are seeing this gubernatorial race as Northern
North
and
versus
Southern.
South.
I think people have to pay attention to government. One of the interesting thing is that they did a survey, and people actually pay more attention in choosing what you're going to be watching tonight on television than sometimes they make the choices when they're voting on election day. And so I encourage people to actually read about who the candidates are, because every vote actually does matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you have seen large elections being won or lost by few hundreds, and this could be one of those cases where couple thousand will be a determining factor as to who makes the runoff and who doesn't.
Yeah, so they call it the big three, Gavin Newsom, the lieutenant governor, and also John Chang, state treasurer, and also and Antonio Villaraigosa, the former LA city mayor. If you have to pick two, can I ask you, who do you think is going to make it to the runoff?
Well, not
Who has the edge right now at this point?
I think
Many people are interested in this one. It's kind of getting national attention, I think, yeah.
Once again, depending who you are in terms of, if you're in Northern California, I think they're rooting for Gavin Newsom. If you're in Southern California, you're rooting for John Chang or Villaraigosa. I think all three do have a good chance. Me personally, I like John Chang because I've known him. He's been a very, very progressive person who's worked with the community, and he's done a lot of good things. So, personally, I support John Chang.
I think John Chang has a good chance too, and I like his policies, and he tends to be, I think, a moderate Democrat. And I did an interview with him last year around this time, and I think, I liked his answers, and, let's see what happens. It's a very interesting race.
I mean, one of the things that Asians will have to overcome is that a lot of times we're not self-promoting. We're not the type that gets in front of the
humble,
mic.
Right?
Yes, I think that's a Confucian sort of DNA that is encrusted on us. But if I'll advocate for him, and he is a very reserved individual, but he's extremely smart, and he's done a lot, not as a controller and also as a treasurer, and I think he'll be a good governor because he does have a good policies.
And there's another election that is gaining a lot of traction. Your boss, right, Kevin DeLeon,
Yes.
versus U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Correct.
And a lot of people are really paying attention to this one. I think this is very interesting. Many people thought that Dianne Feinstein would just, easily just, get reelected. I think she's right now 85 or 86. Some people are saying that she's probably a little bit too old. But out of the blue, your boss Kevin DeLeon, decided his candidacy, and some are saying that he has a very good chance. And what is your take on that? I mean, can you be a little bit more objective?
You're asking me to be objective about my boss, so that's a little difficult. But I think, I had the pleasure of knowing him for a while.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure
You've known
of
him for like decades, right?
I wouldn't say decades, but over 10 years,
Okay.
yes. And I work with him. I know he is a very smart individual, and he does have some good agendas with the environment, as well as, he's a champion of immigration. And a lot of people may not like that, but I do feel that he'll represent California very well.
And he's very progressive, more progressive than Dianne Feinstein, what I take is, and he wants to fight for the minority causes, right?
Of course.
Fight for minority causes. And I think, am I seeing it correctly? It's like the moderate Democrat versus a little bit more progressive Democrat, or do you think I'm kind of picturing it the wrong way?
Even the progressive Democrats, they go one way or the other when it comes to Senator Feinstein or Senator De Leon. And one is U.S. Senator and one is the state senator, but they're both senators. And
You're right. They're both senators.
And I think it's going to come down to who resonates more with them. I think the younger crowd tends to side with Senator De Leon, and people who are a little bit of, shall we say, like first generation or a little bit older, will side with Senator Feinstein. Once again, this comes down to northern and southern.
It's happy to become that way.
Right. And right now, I think everybody, including myself, we're concentrating on fundraising because campaigns takes a lot of money, no matter which campaign it is, and we really haven't seen them hitting the pavement when it comes to actually campaigning. And that's when we're really going to see truly what their agenda is and what they're representing and what their causes are going to be. I think right now it's kind of too early to tell as to who is the moderate or who is the ultra moderate or not.
Did he ask your help? Are you helping out his campaign, or are you too busy doing yours?
No, absolutely. He was my boss, and I, always appreciated that he gave me an opportunity. But right now, I am, I left the office in October, so I can run my own campaign, and then I don't get persuaded with what he's doing or vice versa. So, I am currently concentrating on what I'm doing.
And you're not the only Korean American who have election this year. There's others, Dave Min in Orange County.
Correct.
Running for Congress. And also you have Young Kim running for Congress for Ed Royce's seat.
Correct.
Ed Royce endorsed her. The House, he's like the most powerful guy in Congress and one of the most important positions there. But he's resigning and endorsing Young Kim. What do you think about those two races? Do you have any opinion on that?
Well, it's going to be, there's so many candidates.
Yeah.
And there's some good candidates. So I don't really have an opinion yet.
Okay.
In terms
Young
of
Kim is a Republican and you're a Democrat, so
But I do see that there's a lot of interest because there are some very, very unique people running for that congressional seat. And then there's also a question as to why somebody as powerful and popular as Congressman Ed Royce decided to retire. So I think we can probably come back to that topic if there is another time, and I'd love to have a discussion about it. But right now, I don't think I can deliver a really objective opinion about it.
What did you think about the most recent election? You know, Robert On's congressional candidacy last year. That was the most recent one. He made it to the runoff. I want our viewers to know also your take on that, election cycle.
I think it showed everybody how strong Korean American candidates could be, because in the beginning, when there were multiple candidates, nobody gave Robert An any chance.
I thought he did.
Even making. We both did, and I actually helped him as well. I think this was a clear case of establishment versus outsider.
It was,
When I attended his the debate, which wasn't like televised or too many people,
it was amazing.
I thought he won. Hands down.
Hands down.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. Yeah.
And the knowledge that he had on a lot of the issues, it was very, very good. And he also had a deep understanding of a lot of the issues. But the person who ultimately ended up winning, he was the ultimate insider in politics. Therefore, he got all the endorsement, he got all the institutional money, and they really came out to vote for him. And did the constituents pick the right person? Not in my opinion. And I think Robert should have won.
Got it. Well, it's great talking with you today. You have your election coming up less than 4 months away, and we hope for the best. We want you as a regular here so that you can get your 2 cents.
Thank you.
Everybody has to know Ben knows what he's talking about. He knows the inside and outside of politics. He's been in this for a very, very, very long time. I get to learn a lot from him too. So I bet our viewers would get to know more about city politics, state politics, and national politics. Today we kind of focused more on national, but as we go on from here on out, we're going to talk more about city politics and state politics, and also your race as well.
Thank you.
So anyway, for our viewers, we want our viewers to click like and also press subscribe. And we hope all of you have a great, great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.